It's okay. So we're doing a recipe from my cookbook, Bayroot Cookbook, and I chose this recipe that is easy to make and it could work for breakfast or dinner. Your breakfast and dinner, it's my time here. It's called Fatteh, and it can have different variations. Fatteh is comes from the word يفتفت or fat, which is crumbled, which is what we do to the bread. We toast it and then we crumble it and then mix it with the yogurt so it can soak up most of the liquid and it gets a little bit soggy, but it has this toastiness to it. And a lot of chickpeas, yogurt and tahini, a little bit of garlic, and a lot of fried nuts. And this is what makes the recipe.
God, that sounds good.
So back to putting the book in the bag. I started preparing the pan, warming it up so I can toast the bread. I'm gonna toast them on high heat at first and then lower them. Doesn't matter what kind of bread you have. You can make it with sourdough loaf or the Lebanese bakery type of bread. Just toasting it here. And in the meantime, I'm gonna prepare the other ingredients. When we were making the recipes, I worked with my mom to get the proportions right for the things that I don't normally cook myself because we have it at home and we have an expert making it, which is my mom. And that's not just my own testament. Mom cooks in for large groups in gatherings or in an NGO meeting where people come here from abroad to work with people with disabilities or elderlies, and mom would be handling all of the cooking. And they keep coming back to get and ask her for certain recipes because they love it from her. And lately, they've been asking her for the recipe, like, can Nabila, can you make this recipe or give us this recipe? And she's been really happy with the book and telling them that, oh, you can get it from the book now. It's there. You can take it home. You can take it as a gift. And it's been really great. So for the bread is toasting. I don't have the stove on camera because I didn't clean it. And I'm gonna prepare the sauce here. I think it's showing on the camera. At home, I don't get a small container of yogurt. This is a 5 kilo container of yogurt because that's how much we consume between the plain yogurt that we have or we mix it with fruits, or if you have a savory dish, laban khiyar, which is the yogurt and cucumbers and mint and dried mint and a little bit of garlic and salt. And that's it. And I take a big portion of this and I strain it in a cheesecloth and make labneh because it's much better, much tastier this way. Okay, laban. I'm making 1 can of chickpeas, which is usually good for 2 persons almost. And I use 2 small loaves, accounting for 2 persons. But I'm gonna eat them both myself. This is around 2 cups. I'm gonna go for the book bets to get the exact measurements because I don't want it to flop if you're trying to recreate it and you don't have the book. But for myself, I just measure and taste along the way and adjust based on that. And this is how usually when I was writing the book, I wrote it somewhere that even if you have the exact recipes here, you can go and taste and measure to your own liking because what suits me might not suit you, especially in salt and the heaviness of spices. But this is a sort of a guideline to, as much as possible, get the right taste that we have here. Have you had Fatteh before here when you were in Beirut?
Yes.
Which have you tried it in different places? These are the breads.
Someone made it for us.
Okay.
We had it at someone's house. So I never had it out at a restaurant. And it was
Oh,
always interesting when we would go to a restaurant and have you know, Saj or, you
Mm-hmm.
know, Keshik or, you know, just whatever. It was, you know, the difference, the variety of the different styles that people would make. You
Yeah.
know, everybody has their own family recipe for everything. So,
And Fatteh is one of those that change depending on people's tastes
mhm.
or the desires of the day. But commonly, it's just Fatteh bread, sorry, chickpeas bread. But the changes can be you can use yogurt or a tahini-based Fatteh. So you can easily just mash the chickpeas, add tahini to them, and add the bread. A Palestinian version, which is also in the book as a main dish, it uses yogurt and tahini, and it uses rice and chicken.
Huh.
So you layer it with the fried bread at the bottom, and then add the sauce, which is yogurt and tahini and garlic. Add rice and add chicken, and then you scoop it up. And you can add chickpeas as well. You can basically it's also a guideline that you can use and try and make your own and make what works for you. There's one with eggplants, but I would not feature that because I don't like eggplants.
So when, you know, so since we've been back, there's actually a pretty good Lebanese grocer not too far from us. And so
Mm-hmm.
now permanent fixtures in our kitchen, in our refrigerator are Toum, which is the garlic sauce, and I still use Lebne on everything.
Oh yes.
And za'atar is all the spices are in the thing, but the za'atar is next to the stove.
Yep. Try just making a little bit of flebne on sourdough bread or toast,
Ah.
and sprinkle some za'atar and sliced tomatoes and salt, and that's it.
Mhm. I agree.
Or maybe just lebne and a fried egg and sumac or allspice.
Okay.
Those are really easy, quick fixes or a quick brunch, lunch. So I put 2 cups of yogurt, almost, and I'm adding around quarter of a cup of tahini. Sometimes I would use a garlic powder, and sometimes I would use fresh. It depends on the intensity that you want it to be. Today I'm going to use the dried garlic powder, some salt. While the bread is toasting, if the bread has finished toasting, you can use the chickpeas straight away from the can. But I like to heat them a little bit so they can burst and give a little bit of heat and give a little heat to the yogurt as well. So I'm gonna take away some of the liquid. Is it trying on the camera? I will add a little bit of olive oil to the pan.
And the bread is still in there, correct?
No, I took the
Oh,
bread
okay.
off because
All right.
it got toasted already.
And you poured off about 2/3 of the liquid from that can, correct?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, I will add it later and based on how I feel how much liquid it would need.
Right.
I will let that bubble a little bit in the pan. And sometimes I like to add a little bit of cumin
Mm-hmm.
and a little bit of paprika. to the chickpeas and they can infuse in the flavors. This is yogurt sauce. Let me taste. Hmm. Love chickpeas. Usually, this is layered like a parfait or a trifle, where you have the stacks of different ingredients. Um, I forgot where I put the plate. I'm back. So I got two plates, and then each I divide the bread. And there is one last step in the end before we finish the whole dish. Uh, I will I will show it to you because it makes all the difference in shops. Uh, there's a place in Tripoli that is known for the fatteh and hummus and fool. Fool is a fava beans. Um, and they make one of the fatteh with tahini and the chickpeas. They mash them a little bit and they add a lot of spices to it. They call it Malizi, which is similar to Malaysian, but I don't know why the name came from there. But it has a lot of spices more than any of these dishes. But the twist is the fried nuts in a lot of butter, and then you add all of this butter on top of the yogurt that is still a little cold, and so it splashes and it um, makes this sound. You can add more or less spread based on how you like it. And then I'm gonna add the chickpeas. I didn't need to use more water. It's still it has a little bit of its own liquids. I'll divide that into the two bread bowls. And I'll rinse this quickly because I'm using it again for the fried nuts. And onto here, Does anyone have any? Have you ever made this? Have you tried it somewhere else? Have you tried it better?
I have not tried it, but now I really want to. And I think this is almost kind of cruel to watch you make it because it looks really good and I can't have any of it right now.
Oh,
I'm with
we
you,
should have,
Raisa, for sure.
we should have sent the ingredient list so you can follow along or do it really right after the demonstration.
Yes. I think I have all the ingredients.
I had to turn my audio off because my stomach is growling. This is making me so hungry. It looks so delicious.
So Reza was we did the Mamoul demonstration, and Reza was taking furious notes, and we posted the recipe and all that kind of stuff. And she, went and found the mold and, got the crushed cherry seed spice. I forget what that's called.
Mahlab.
That's it. But she did it, and we posted the picture, and the woman, it's the woman, the ladies that owned Convivio in Antilles, or the ones that whole family, they each kind of took a turn and demonstrated something.
Oh,
But their mom is the Mamoul champion apparently.
yeah.
And she definitely approved. But Raisa got high marks for her, for the definition and the construction.
They made it easy with their recipe.
Yeah, you always think that mamoul is really hard to make. And this is what I got also from my mom. But up until last year that I made mamoul from scratch myself. Because mom had work and she didn't have time to make mamoul. And I didn't want Easter to pass without making mamoul as a tradition. So I made it and it wasn't really that tough. It just takes making it once probably just to know what the texture feels like and how it really should be. Because seeing someone make it is different than making it yourself. So here I put some butter and olive oil, and I'll put cashews. And I sold my kidney, but I got some fine nuts.
Oh man. Yeah, those things are not cheap.
Yeah.
Even though they grow so well in Lebanon.
Yeah, but I think they're labor intensive to harvest and to shell and process and clean up. The nuts need to baste in the liquid and the fat, basically. I don't know if it's visible on cam, not really.
Tilt it up just a little bit. There you go. Yeah, we can see that.
Yeah. You need to get a little bit golden more than this. And this fat will make all of the yogurt get this, I don't know what to call it, like hiss or. But I need to remove stuff just so you can see this out of the picture. Right.
Well, Hisham, I'm in the process of looking you up online and ordering the cookbook, and you get very good marks online for the cookbook. So just the way that it's laid out and the graphics and all that stuff. Well done.
Thank you so much. If you get it from Amazon or you get it online, please leave a review. It would really help in making other people excited to buy it and help the stats of the book as well. If you like it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm currently working on another book that is more revolving around baking, and it should be out next year.
Excellent.
Yes. Okay. So I hope I'm gonna leave it a little bit more so that the butter gets really, really hot, and then drop it on top of this.
We definitely need to make this when we all meet up in Virginia.
I agree.
I'll look at it. I'll see what kind of wines are going to pair with this. It'll be interesting.
Ooh.
It'll be a project.
did I do here? Okay.
That's good.
I don't know about wine though with this. This pairs well with tea. So start with the tea and then the wine. Okay, so
Well,
this is
champagne or sparkling or are usually pairs well with almost anything, and then there's the backup to that is rosé if it's hot outside. So
I'm gonna add it. Is it? You can hear it.
We can't hear it, the sizzle, but we can definitely see it. Or I can't. I've got an air conditioner over my shoulder.
I'm gonna unmute my phone and mute myself from the earphones and
Wide spectrum.
All right.
Nice view. Nice view.
Oh yeah.
Basically, this is back.
okay. You can use some parsley on top of that. You can you're gonna just get those. Give it a little bit of color. It's good to have with tea in the morning, with lots of pickles and olives and fresh tomatoes and onions and cucumbers. And I love to add some Aleppo peppers on top.
Oh, okay.
And more cumin if you're a fan of that. I know that a lot of people don't like cumin though. Et voilà. Fatteh.
Wow, that's gorgeous.
It looks so good.
Thank you.
Fatteh.
We should have connected with someone here so someone can taste it on your behalf.
Uh-huh.
I'm
Francis.
giving applause. I'm giving
Francis, real quick,
applause.
drive to Beirut.
Hisham, I have a question. How well would you say that families eat? Do you think like school children eat as well as you would cook normally with a family?
School children, we don't have school lunches unless you're in a very fancy private school. Public schools and most schools would not offer meals, but we used to take a wrap with the Arabic bread. We would have white cheese or za'atar with a cucumber or sometimes labneh, but this was a traumatic experience from a child because the labneh and white soft bread, it would go into the bread would absorb it, and then it would go limp and soggy, and it is not a good experience at all. But we used to get za'atar, processed yellow cheese, spreadable cheese, deli meats, mortadella or jambon or ham. And then we go back home and we have a home cooked meal by whoever's cooking at home, mostly moms, but not at schools. Usually we either go for a manouche, the flat bread with za'atar or cheese that we can get from a kiosk or shop at the school courtyard, or we would have the sandwich from home.
Thank you. Any other questions? That looks amazing. We won't blame you for eating it.
I was interested in what you said about the chickpeas, right? And you were saying that canned chickpeas didn't create as creamy a thing as cooked chickpeas, like
Yeah.
from scratch, right? I've always been told that when you make hummus, if you put the lemon and the what's the peanut sauce?
The tahini.
The tahini, if you put the lemon and tahini first and whip that first and then add the other ingredients on top of it, it makes it creamier. Cooking chickpeas, I don't know. I haven't had that great of an experience, but from scratch, the cans usually produce it better, but I'll try again.
Yeah, you could maybe boil the chickpeas a little bit further from the can, like dump them in a pot and cook them further. But for to create a hummus that is creamy, my experience was a good food processor, not the ultra top restaurant grade. I just got a Maggi mix. Back then when I got it, it was around $500. It was a good one, but you can do it in a regular food processor. In my experience, I pulsed the chickpeas, mashed them completely until they're creamy and smooth, and then add the seasonings.
Okay.
Also, as per mom's tip, if you add everything all at once, it will not go as creamy.
Right.
But I've seen people do it, and probably it's one of those debates that we can never agree on.
Yeah.
But for the chickpeas, if you're soaking and boiling, soak them overnight. They puff up, they double or triple in size depending on the type of chickpeas that you're getting. And you can rub them with a little bit of baking soda. Toss them with a little baking soda. This helps them break down easily and cook faster. And then wash them, rinse them a little bit, and then put them in water in a pot on high heat. And you can cover them for 40 to 50 minutes, an hour, depending on how well cooked do you want them. For the hummus, the more well done, the more overcooked, the better.
Okay.
And because they're already mashed and they're already smooth, so you just need to whip them up in a processor. And some people say that you can remove the skins from the chickpeas and that creates a creamier hummus, but I think this is a huge waste of time if you're making a 1 kilo of hummus or
Right.
even more. Anyone has we can talk about anything you feel like asking, not just related to food.
Sure.
So,
So there were a
Hisham,
couple. So I mentioned Toum, and so there were a
Yeah.
couple questions in the chat about it. Frances posted a recipe. Her brother Joe, her brother-in-law Joe, actually runs a really good Lebanese restaurant here in DC, and so she posted his recipe. But I mean, how do you? I mean, you don't buy Toum, right? You make it.
It depends on how much I'm using. If I'm making if I'm using a lot of Toum, I would make it. But sometimes if I'm using it for just a little bit of on a sandwich, I'd rather get it because the recipe for it to work, it needs to make a big quantity. Because basically you're doing something like an emulsion or a mayonnaise. You're mixing the garlic, lots of it, and adding olive oil until it emulsifies into this creamy, foamy white Toum. Store-bought is not bad depending on the brands that you're getting, but of course, homemade is good, and you can adjust if you'd like it to be more acidic, more salty, less garlicky, depending on the brands that you're getting versus homemade. But one of the tricks, I've seen it also being done like mayonnaise. You add the garlic and then the oil, and then just use a stick blender to emulsify it. But according to my family's and my mom and dad's recipe, you have to freeze the oil. It doesn't freeze, but you have to cool it down overnight until it's really, really cool to help the garlic not overheat and for the emulsion not to break. And then you have to add it little by little while the blender or the food processor is rotating. but I haven't tried the small portion with garlic with the stick blender.
Give it a shot.
Yeah, I'll have to.
Yeah, no, us too. Yeah, I've come home and you make chili and or Mexican dishes and things like that. And the lebne is for me, and I mean, you can probably correct me on this. It feels to me, it tastes to me like a cross somewhere between sour cream and yogurt. And it's kind of the best of both. And so it just has become its own medium in our household. And you can even do like a dessert type of breakfast. If you mix it with honey, it becomes this amazing, like better than cannoli stuffing. It's just amazing. So
usually I make a big batch of lebne from the 5 kilo gallon of yogurt because I eat it for breakfast. I add a little bit of a fruit syrup or a light fruit jam. I mix it with the yogurt and then add more fruits or granola or the granola clusters. And that would be breakfast for me. And I also use it I mix it with whipped cream. I would make whipped cream with a little bit more sugar to make it balance the acidity of the lebne, and then add a few tablespoons or half a cup of lebne. It will get it more creamy and thicker because you're adding more fat to it, and it would get this slight tang from the lebne. I would add it on top of fruits, a fruit salad, grilled fruits, cake.
all right. That's great. So, and I think I might have talked over someone. Anyone else? Did someone else have a question?
Stacy maybe was talking. No.
No, Hisham, I had a question. So if you remove the husks of the chickpeas, people do it to make it smoother, or is it a taste thing?
It's more of a texture thing.
Okay.
Some people believe that if you remove the shells, the skins of the chickpeas, it will help create a smoother hummus. But if the chickpeas are already really cooked and you're using a powerful food processor, you don't need to do that.
I've tried it. It didn't do anything for me. And I make hummus all the time. I mean, I in all honesty, I've tried making it with like chickpeas from scratch versus the can, which is a pain because they take a long time to cook, as he points out. But I see, unlike a lot of things, when you make it from scratch, I thought the can was, the results were not appreciably better, and it was a lot more work.
Yeah, it is.
I don't think that the skins of the chickpeas are like as offensive in any way as like dried chili skin. That stuff is like that's like, like ugh, that's like little razor blades.
Like when I'm cooking with chickpeas or doing whatever, I mean, if the shell has already fallen off, I'll pull that out. But I don't go, the free range shells I get rid of, but I don't go looking beyond that.
Yeah, I think it's a waste to go with a whole can, just peeling them one by one, or even rubbing them and then removing the skins one by one.
It just shows how much you believe in what you're doing.
It's such a pain to try to remove those skins.
All right. So, all right. I mean, do you have any questions of us? Is there these are the usual suspects. I mean, we see and we have I gave Hisham a little bit of the background of how the group got started, and how I kind of inherited the duty, and how we've kind of strayed from the food conversation a little bit since I took over. So it's definitely nice to have the guests come in, and luckily, a lot of them have been Lebanese, and we've definitely loved we've loved the experiences. Okay, Francis, her mic isn't working, but wants to ask you to talk a bit about your thoughts on the food appropriation of Lebanese cuisine that you mentioned it a little bit on your site.
Yes, one of the titles that I always bring up is how food is political. And you cannot take it out of the context. Like, you can if you want to, but if you really want to talk about food and the history and the backgrounds, there will always be politics. And Lebanese food has been the subject of all of these. Not just Lebanese food, it's the food of this region, whether it's Lebanon, Syria, or Palestine, because this area has been active since the beginning of time, probably, or at least in recorded history. And I think each civilization or each conqueror or occupier has left a mark or has taken something from the cuisine. And a lot of the foods changed over time, changed because of scarcity, because of political reasons, or because someone else made it better, and then we decided to adapt it back. Some people say that the dolmas were, or the wara anab, the stuffed pine leaves, were made differently, and then when the Ottomans did them or the Turkish people did them their way, we took it back, and then we were doing them as I'm gonna call it Levantine, the Levantine way. But it's good sometimes. Like this has been culturally been made years and years and decades and centuries probably back. What really pisses me off is when people come out less than a century ago and say that, oh, this is our food, this is our culture, this is how we do it, and we've been doing it for all along. And this is a topic that is dear to my heart. I'm originally Palestinian. My family came from Palestine in 1948. They were expelled and they couldn't go back. And they've been living as refugees. And then we got the Lebanese nationality in the 50s. And seeing our history and our culture being promoted by an occupier state that, yes, that's how I write it.
By the neighbors to the south, yes.
Yeah, as something that is historically theirs, it feels a bit not so cool. And that's why it's one of the things that I love to keep talking about, just to put the record straight, or at least say my point out loud and not submit and absolve.
Totally understandable. We get it.
Yeah. One of the things that I talked about in the post is not the food appropriation, but the politics of food and how we've seen our government in the past 3 to 4 years, how clearly they've manipulated people who wanted to change something in the country and in the government by withholding resources and mainly food from them. So people's habits changed. Meats were off the table for a long time. We were trying to be resourceful and frugal as much as possible to make use of every single part of whatever we buy, whether it's the skins of skins of watermelons, to the husks of corn, to anything, make use of it because we paid a lot for it because of the economic collapse. And that was a good tactic from the government to make people submit. Be busy with getting food to the table and forget that we've been stripped off of our rights and of our money in the banks and all of the disasters that happened in the past 4 years.
Wow.
It's
When you
been,
bring it down to the table stakes of that, I mean, when you talk about it in terms of food and pricing and how that works
Mhm.
for every person, that's when it sort of comes home, because I mean, you can read about it in the paper, but when you sort of think about it, it's like every person's table. That's deep.
and just to give everybody else just kind of a sense of the scale, so Lebanon artificially pegged their currency rate at 1,500 Lebanese pounds per US dollars, like 1,505 or something like that. And it was that way for 20 years, no matter what the economy was doing. It was pegged, so that's what we say, artificially. And when the Ponzi scheme collapsed, and the rich people got their money out and the poor people's money disappeared, or the not rich people, not just the poor, everybody else who didn't, kind of get the heads up in advance, their money basically disappeared from the banks overnight. And once there was a stranglehold on US dollars, there became a secondary market for them. And when we arrived in Lebanon, and it had come out from behind the shadows. I mean, it used to be that somebody would come pick you up and change your dollars into, it would be 10 or 15 times the rate. But by the time we got there in the summer of 2021, you could go to any of the Western Union, forget what the
Money exchange.
OMT is the one that we would go to. And nationwide, and they would publish that quote unquote black market rate. And so when we got there, that rate was around 12,000, and it went up and down. It was trending upward because somebody said the higher it went, the more it hurt Hezbollah. And so by the time we left, it was over 100,000. So it was $1 was now 100,000 LBP, Lebanese pounds. And so the government has had over that time, especially in the last maybe year, started to adopt higher rates officially for its own business. And so to get some sort of regularity and find a I don't say happy medium, but somewhere where they're not just hemorrhaging these money. The problem is they never changed the pay rates of the government workers, the teachers, the army, the police, and they are still getting paid on the 1505 rate, while and Lebanon has more fresh water than any country in the world except maybe out of the Great Lakes, and that's arguable. But none of it is purified, and very little of it is drunk, because there are people making too much money off of the bottled water, just the same as the private power generators and things like that. Wherever there is a space that has been left by the government, and there are many, these privateers have shown up into that space, and once people are making money there, they make sure the government doesn't fix it. So
Because some of them are involved in government people.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. It's become a complete kleptocracy, if I can use that word. And so the houses get the big water cooler jugs, after 5 or 6 gallons or whatever it is, 10 gallons.
Or these.
Yeah, but the big ones, when we first got there, were 6,000 LBP, which at that rate it was about 50 or 75 cents. When we left, it was, I don't know, 200,000.
Yeah.
Or 220, 250,000 for one of those big jugs. And again, and we were lucky to have, we had access to US dollars, but the people that don't have access to that, and the people that are, still getting paid on the old rate, or whose life savings were completely subsumed by the government in their failures and, collusion with the banking. Everybody has just been paralyzed. And in the midst of that, that's when the blast happened. So
yeah, it was around 10,000 per lira, per dollar, 10,000 liras per dollar.
Wow.
Right. And so it's been, bad luck upon bad management, upon cataclysm, upon, it's been a tough 5 or 10 years for Lebanon writ large. So we felt very lucky to have been there, and we just fell in love with the country and the people. And anytime you walk down the street and you get into a conversation, you meet people like Hisham, and they're the loveliest people we've ever met, and we definitely feel very Lebanese in our hearts. So I'll stop talking.
That's a cool thing. People welcome other people around, and even despite all of the crap that has been happening, I think people haven't lost this hospitality, at least.
Wow.
Yeah, there's definitely a genuine, earnest curiosity, and not like, who the heck are you, but who are you? Where do you come from? What do you think of Lebanon? What do you like to eat? Come to my house because you were having dinner with us tonight. I mean, that
Yeah.
happens a lot. So
I think that's a spirit that here in America, I think we could use a little bit of that friendliness and that openness to things, because sadly, I think we've lost some of it and that generosity of spirit. I was going to ask a question that is totally a left turn from that discussion, but I wanted to talk about olive oil for a minute, because I know that part of the world makes a lot of really interesting olive oils, like Lebanese versus Italian versus Spanish. Discuss.
I only know about Lebanese, so the floor is yours.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
Hisham, do you like the stuff that comes like the South, the real spicy stuff, or do you like the stuff from the North that's at a higher altitude? Do you have an opinion or a preference?
I like the green one, the green that is a little bit spicy. And usually when we get it, when it's olive oil season, it is still very spicy. No, I mean, not spicy, but it's like pungent
Oh yeah,
and
definitely
hot in
spicy.
the mouth. This is the olive oil I like. Usually this comes from green olives, and I think the milder ones come from black olives. But
Do you have
sometimes
such
they
a
make
thing as we have it here where we do the first press, which happens in the
Mhm.
winter. It's called Olivio Nuovo, and
Mhm.
it's really different because it's like the first press, and we do have that in California, and that's, to me, like that's the most delicious.
But it's spicy because of the different olives, not because they're adding a spice to it, correct?
Yes, the olives are because the oil is still, I'm gonna call it hot, because it's fresh from the press and it still haven't settled. So it has all of the aroma elements probably, or the I forgot the term. Oh, I can't get it. It's like how you smell the black pepper, for example, and it gives you this tingling in your nose. Um, So the olives, when they're fresh from the press, they give you that feeling. But once they settle throughout the year, because I don't get a small bottle, I get a 20 or 18-liter gallon of olive oil to use throughout the year. Now it's milder because I got it in November or October. Uh, but the more it settles, the more all of these particles would sit at the bottom, and the olive oil would be a little bit clearer in color, less green, and less spicy.
Yeah, that's what we did. Francis and Alexi, they hooked us up with. So they're the first, actually, we finally arrived after a comedy of errors in Lebanon at like 2 a.m, and Francis came to collect us again once the sun was up and we were awake, and took us down into Juni, the area that's the the meeting of 4 local towns at the bottom of the mountain that we were living on. And the first place she took us was to their friend Frame, who was the olive merchant there in Juni, or one of them. And we got some olives and olive oil. And eventually, when the new pressings came out in a few months, we got one of those massive tin jerry cans full. And it was still pretty spicy when we left, and we still had a bunch to give away, but it was amazing. I wish we could have brought it home with us. But I will only now buy, like I said, there's a pretty good Lebanese grocer near us, and Barbara, when you come to town, I'll take you over there. But I only have Lebanese olive oil in the house, period. So I mean, it's literally the least I can do to support the Lebanese, created demand over here. So
Got it.
doing my part. So all right. I'd love to keep doing this, but I have to drive up to Baltimore today. So does anybody else have any questions, any comments, criticisms, statements?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for setting this up,
Thank
Hugh.
you
This is
so
great.
much.
I did.
Yeah.
I take all the
Thank you.
credit.
This is
All
really
the-
interesting. This is really interesting.
Yeah.
Yes,
This
no,
is
Hisham, and we'll do some discussions, and maybe when you do your next cookbook, or just every now and then when you're bored, anytime you want to come back, we'd love to have you on to talk.
Yes.
So
Thank you
and
so much.
And you could even host, have bring Courtney over or your friends or something, and if you want to, have us sit there watch you all enjoy eating your foods, that would be even more torturous. But feel free.
Torture us.
Yes. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
Take care.
you.
Love you guys.
Thanks for arranging this.
Thank you again.
Bye-bye.
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 And I will. What I did record, I'll download and I'll send out a link. So I'll send that to you as well, Hisham, and then you can use it or not use it, or you can have me edit it, and we'll figure it out. All right. Take care, everyone.
Thanks,
Okay.
everybody.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks so much, Hisham.